Net neutrality has just been gutted and shanked and elbowed and power bombed and fucking fish fried. And this is some really, really bad news for all of us. So what happened is the FCC proposed draft rules that will, quote, allow content companies to pay internet service providers for special access to consumers. So let me explain that further. What happened is a federal court decision in January struck down a rule that required broadband providers to treat all internet traffic the same, regardless of the source. And then the FCC stepped in and said, don't worry, we're going to draft new rules that still keep the net neutral. So the court says, hey, man, you guys can go house if you're a broadband provider and you want to restrict certain websites and not others, you could do it. But the FCC said, we're going to save the day and swoop in and put it into place new rules that don't allow that to happen. Well, the FCC didn't. We just got some of the preliminary reports about what are the new rules. They were released to the press, and man, they're not good. The only positive rule that they came up with, quote, ISPs would be prohibited from blocking or discriminating against specific websites and would be required to spell out commercially reasonable terms that would be available to all interested content providers. The FCC would review each deal on a case-by-case basis. So, in other words, as long as you don't completely block websites, you can do whatever you want. Now, let me try to explain this in as simple terms as possible. So, what the situation used to be with the internet is the internet was essentially viewed as not owned by anybody. Okay, so if you're a broadband provider, okay, you're providing broadband. Doesn't mean you own the internet, you're just providing broadband. The same way that, like, there could be a water company, Poland Spring or Aquafina or whatever, and they could sell water, but they don't own H2O. You know, it's not like the government can, have a free system for it like they do. It's not like there can't be other bottled water companies or different types of water, mineral water, this water, that water, spring water. It doesn't mean you own H2O just because you sell water, right? Same thing with the internet. It used to be, okay, you're a broadband provider, but that doesn't mean you own the internet, and you can, like, change the fundamental structure of how the internet functions. Well, now with the court ruling, they said, no, actually they can do that. So in other words, let's say you have Comcast as your internet provider. Well, Comcast might be closer with certain corporations and certain websites and less close with other companies and corporations and websites. And what they could do essentially now is slow down the traffic to the ones that they don't like. So when you type in that address and you click enter, it takes a longer amount of time for you to get to that website. And they could speed up the traffic to the ones that they have deals with. So what they're doing, what a court did, is they opened up the door here for bribery. Or that might not even be the right word, but they're opening up the door for the broadband providers to essentially say, hey, you guys need to pay us your dues this month, and then we'll speed up your internet access. But unless you pay us, well, we're not saying anything here, but hey, your website might be a little slower unless people will go to it as a result. So, of course, the criticism is, well, all you're doing is making the broadband providers the gatekeepers for the internet, and they could just censor any content they don't want you to see, and they'll speed up content they do want you to see. And you're also shutting out any kind of new upstart businesses, any kind of small-time regular people that set up a website. If we don't have the money or the ability to pay our fucking mafia fee to the broadband providers, then we're fucked. And again, it used to be just everything was open and free on the internet. So these broadband companies, they can't speed up and slow down and do this and do that. If you click in, punch in a website, they have to allow it the same speed as any other one. Well, now they're changing that. So it's a really gross thing. And then when the FCC gave us hope and said, don't worry, we're going to write new rules that's going to protect the internet. And all the FCC said is, you're not allowed to totally censor and block websites. But that's it. That's all they said. They didn't say anything about, hey, man, you can't fucking really, really slow it up to the point where somebody could type in the name of a website and it takes 20 minutes to get to it. They didn't say anything against that. Just sorry, you can't censor the websites. And they expect that, all the pro-internet activists are going to back off now and say, okay, it's fine, it's cool, don't worry about it. Mission accomplished, guys. They can't censor websites. So this is a problem, man. This is a big problem. The internet now is not free. It was free before. It was free, it was open, it was a forum where everything was treated equally. But now they've made it a situation where every single broadband provider is going to essentially try to get money out of all these other companies, and they're going to make it a pay-to-play kind of thing, and they'll slow down websites that don't pay. And what a terrible, terrible decision by the court, and what a terrible, terrible job by the FCC in order to try to fix the problem, which they didn't do. So is there any way out of this? I don't know. A few of the articles I read seem to hint that there's certain ways to still get out of it, but I'm skeptical because just like everything else in this country, it appears like the lobbyists and the corporations and the people who wanted more control, they were able to get their hands on the steering wheel here and grab control, and they hardly ever relinquish it.